Hi, my name is Jamie Lynch, and you are listening to Eating Habits, my podcast about everything restaurants. I will explore the human element of the hospitality business, and I'll talk to the who's who in restaurants, explore their stories, and hear what's on their minds in the ever-changing landscape of the food and beverage industry.
Hello, I'm Lindsay Moser. I am a food content creator, and you are listening to Eating Habits.
Great job! What's up?
What's up? How are you?
I'm awesome. The Hunger Diaries is in the house.
In the house.
So, a food content creator. Is that... You know I'm going to throw out the dirty word, right?
Influencer?
Nope. Do you know the one I'm going to throw out?
Blogger?
Close. You're getting closer.
Oh, geez. What is it?
Mukbanger.
Oh, mukbanger. I know. It just sounds bad.
It does sound bad.
Have the word bang in it is just, and muck. I mean,
yeah, it's like
combined.
But I like food content creator or food. What'd you call it?
Yeah, food content creator. I've kind of I really don't ever know what to call myself because it all sounds weird. It all sounds like, what do you really do?
Yeah, exactly.
Real job.
Okay, so you and I first met at a real job back in Atlanta. We kind of worked at the same restaurant, and you were bartending back in the day. And I remember you had, I think it was on Instagram. I think was the main, your main avenue at that point, right?
Right, and that's when I first started my whole journey. I guess I had started it maybe a year before that, just sort of fiddling with it, but I was in residential real estate and it was sort of just this thing that I had started on the side. And I met Shane, and Shane got into Georgia Tech's business school. I decided to move to Atlanta, be like, I'm not going to be a realtor anymore. I am pursuing my food dream. But I was broke. So I needed to be able to make money, and it certainly wasn't happening with the food yet. The food, content creation yet. So, yeah.
What year was that? What year was that you started doing it? Was it 2015 or 16?
Yeah, one of them. I feel
somewhere around there.
I think it was 2016, if I had to guess. And don't be mad, but I may have never worked a bartending job in my life and said that I had.
Well, you did an awesome job, so who cares?
I thought I did a great job. I'm a quick learner, and it was definitely I was so grateful to be able to do that because I could survive off of a bartending salary. And I had served tables for, during college and after college, and I really was not, it wasn't my thing that I really wanted to keep doing. Bartending was much more fun. So
what started the food journey? How did you get interested in food and particularly eating? And then what made you think hey, it would be super cool to record myself eating for people? How did this evolve into a thing?
Yeah. So, when it first started, Instagram was really new. I mean, not really new. I guess it had been around for 4 or 5 years. I had never really considered it as something that I could start. Somebody else ended up approaching me that was also in real estate. I had just come out of a kind of bad breakup, and she's like, oh my gosh, we should do a food blog together. And I'm like, a food blog? I love food. And my history with food has always been strong. I've always been a big eater. Always.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Yeah. I've always loved food. All of my travel was always centered around food. My mom is always known as a great cook to my whole family growing up. So it was just something that I was passionate about. So when she was like, let's start a food blog, I was all in. I'm like, this sounds amazing. Unfortunately, sometimes doesn't end up working out with business partners, as you know. So it didn't end up working out with us. I was like, you know what? Screw this. I still want to do this. And so I just, rebranded, came up with the Hunger Diaries, started my own Instagram, And it's sort of just evolved from there. It started with pictures. Everyone was taking pictures for a while.
Yep.
And then while I was in Atlanta, I tried out for a Food Network show while I was working at your restaurant, Vibe Church, and somehow made it onto the show. So that's actually why I ended up leaving Five Church, is because I had to take like a really long stint to go and film that. And then I just decided to like be with Shane for the summer in Boulder, because I knew when I came back, I wasn't going to have that much time before we ended up having to move for his like permanent job. So after I did the Food Network show, I became super interested in doing video, being in front of the camera, trying to get more comfortable with that whole process. So that's when I started my YouTube channel and started messing around with things. And probably like a year or so into being in Minnesota, I'm like, I need to figure out something different that I can do that sets me apart from everybody else, because everyone was just kind of doing the same thing. And so I did a deep dive, and like, I love to learn things. Like education is, if I'm ever feeling like uninspired, I'm like, let me just dive into some education, some like free webinars or YouTube videos or whatever. And I always end up picking up like a little tidbit of something here and there, right? So I ended up finding this like keywords everywhere Google Chrome extension that like lets you see like how many search results for every single thing. So I would just started like looking up all of these different things and like stumbled upon mukbang. And this is before people really like, I feel like it's much more well known now. But this is like, I had never seen anything like this before. ASMR, I had never heard of ASMR before, and that's huge now. And I just thought to myself, I can't stop watching this. It feels like primal almost. Leans towards fetishy if you're doing it in a certain way. But I thought to myself, eating is my favorite part. I don't know why I wouldn't do something like this, like if I'm enjoying watching other people and, it brings a certain value to the viewer as well. Like it's the reason mukbang actually loosely translates to eating broadcast in Korean. And it was a way for them to feel less lonely. They would broadcast themselves. People would donate towards their channel. People would be able to eat together, So I loved just the whole concept of it, even though it looked weird as hell.
Well, and at that time, like it wasn't big in the U.S. at that point, right? Like this was, I think it started in like South Korea or something, right? I did a little research on that. I think it was like 2010 or 2011, like early 2000s, 10s is when it kind of started in South Korea. So like around the time that you started doing this, I mean, it's fairly new in the U.S., right?
Yeah, and not too many people. I mean, a lot of people have started incorporating more eating into their content. I think a lot of people were like, gosh, you make all this food, but like, do you even eat it, to like a lot of these creators? And so I think that the mukbang was like a very easy way for people to be like, yeah, she's making the food and she's like actually eating it, not just like pretending or whatever.
And most of your food is like these giant bowls of pasta or like oversized triple cheeseburger bangers. Like you eat big food, big cheesy gooey food.
I've always I think people in general love that like indulgent food. I think that journey for me has definitely evolved as well. But as far as like the large portions, it's always like if you watch like mukbangs, like full videos, I noticed that a lot of people they don't finish the food. They're just trying a lot of different things. They try something, but it's like the presentation of it, Right. And I've always been the person that I'm cooking for 4, whether it's just me or whether it's 4 people.
You're not the only one. Chefs do that too. I cook for 20 at home. It's me and my fiance, and I'm cooking for like a barbecue.
Right, exactly. So that's how my mom did it too. She just made way too much food all the time. And if I'm making, especially something like a mac and cheese, like I'm not going to make a baked mac and cheese this big. I'm going to make it this big, and I'm going to have leftovers because I love leftovers. So
Right.
I just figure I'm going to make these beautiful presentations, these large portions, and then I'll eat till I'm done and call it a day. So I don't actually eat everything in front of
But you do a good job. You put a big dent in it. I watched a couple of your episodes the other night, and I think it was like your mac and cheese and feta joint that you did. You went to town on that thing. I was impressed. I was like, there you go. Like, show them how it's done.
Some things, yeah, I can really throw down on, and mac and cheese is definitely one of them. And pasta, mac and cheese, just, yes, I love it. And I can,
So what is your favorite thing to eat? Not on just generally, just generally speaking, you're the thing that like speaks to your soul. That's like, oh my God, that's what comforts me when I need to eat or when I need to feel
pasta. I mean,
pasta.
I just love pasta. I love the texture of pasta, like really chewy pasta. It's always so comforting.
So you don't like that overcooked
No.
crab. No, you want some al dente. You want a little bite. You want your bites back a little bit.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Nice.
No, that's probably like my favorite texture. I mean, I love crunchy food too, but I like love chewy
Mm-hmm.
food. So pasta just always feels like a big hug.
Yeah,
When you're
totally.
eating it.
So what pasta? What's your favorite dish? Your pasta dish recipe that you've come across?
So I honestly, I love like simple classics. Like carbonara is like one of my favorite
Ooh,
things.
talk to me about it. How do you do your carbonara? Because there's so many schools of thought on this, right? Like there's
well, not according to Italians.
What's that?
I said not according to Italians. There is one school of thought.
Okay, educate. Let's hear
Well, I mean, if you're not using guanciale and pecorino and eggs and that's it with their pasta, like then it's not carbonara and like blasphemy.
Yes.
Obviously in the States we use bacon and pancetta.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll use parm.
They put cream in there. What are they doing?
Anytime
What are they doing?
And carbonara, I'm like,
What?
it's not. Though I do like to make like variations of carbonara, and I made a creamed corn carbonara, which felt like an okay exception to the rule. And it was, I mean, whether it was carbonara or it wasn't, it was absolutely delicious. But yeah, I just love the basic carbonara, just the eggs, pecorino parmesan or a combination, and some form of bacon, guanciale, pork, fatty pork to go with it.
Yeah, I like the guanciale. I like the cured jowl. It's less aggressive than the bacon. Like the smoked bacon is delicious, and I have a soft spot for the bacon. But I think for that preparation, the cured jowl is like the way to go. And
it kind of lets everything else be there too.
Yeah, you can
overpowering.
Yeah, the flavors layer better with it. Like with the smoked bacon, it's powerful, right? Sometimes like you can't get the egginess. You don't, it kind of softens some of those other flavors.
Yeah, I mean it still certainly doesn't suck. But,
no, it's pasta for God's sake. It's not going to suck.
Exactly.
So let's talk about your process. Okay, if you're making carbonara, okay, what's your process? You've got all your mise en place, set up, ready to go. Pasta goes in the water.
Well, when I make carbonara, I guess I either would render my bacon or guanciale or whatever I'm using first and just have that out of the way. I kind of get stressed out in the kitchen, so I have to do things that I know aren't going to be like super time sensitive. So I get that done. Then I'll like mix my eggs and my cheese, the raw eggs and the cheese together, whisk that up. And then I'll turn the heat back on low, have my pasta ready to go in directly into the pan with the bacon in it, give it a toss, take it off the heat, add the eggs and the cheese, and just sort of give it a really, really fast toss, add a little pasta water, until it's like creamy and delicious looking.
Awesome. That's the way.
That's the way, right?
That's the way. I always like to do mine. Whenever I do carbonara, I always do it in a bowl. I don't do it in the pan. I always go. I always cook the eggs with the hot pasta in the bowl. That's my.
I've done that before too, and it's more foolproof that way because then you don't have eggs making contact with the hot pan, possibly scrambling. So
Yeah.
makes sense.
I'm a scrambler of eggs if I go into a hot pan.
Yeah. Or I'll mix some of the pasta water with like temper the eggs with the cheese and
It's a nice
then
move.
add it. Yeah.
It's a nice move. You got to make sure that pasta water is boiling though when you do it, so you get that the heat of that water.
Right.
cooks
It's
the
got to be like
yolks.
fresh out the pot.
All right. Well, I'm getting hungry. We should have made a bowl. We should have made a bowl of carbonara. I did like
We should have mukbanged this podcast.
Maybe we'll have to do like a little teaser for Instagram or something. Awesome. Cool. So you said you get frazzled in the kitchen a little bit. So this isn't a cooking exercise so much as it's a food and eating exercise. And the cooking sounds like it might be secondary.
I enjoy cooking when I think that most of the time when I'm cooking now, I associate with filming. And I'm a one-woman show. I film. I'm the cameraman. I'm the on-screen personality. I'm the cook. I'm playing all of these different parts, and that for me is pretty stressful. So if I don't have all of that going on, and I'm just cooking by myself for myself, it's definitely less stressful. But yeah, I eventually I need to just hire somebody to help me.
Yeah.
It's tough because I'm very particular and I'm not afraid to admit it.
Yeah. Well, it's your passion project. That's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
What all does it take to do all that? I mean, it's a lot to do production, right? I mean, it's a lot to cook well, to cook well.
Especially time-sensitive foods, which I love, and I do film carbonara, but it's like oh my God, like I've almost got to like smoke a little weed before I start.
Nice. Is that your
Bit of a secret sauce or whatever.
Yeah.
Something I don't like. I don't feel good about drinking to do it, so I would rather just like
something natural.
And then I'm like, okay, let's get into
I need to get to the end of this so I can eat this bowl.
Right, exactly. And I'll do before I start eating to sit down and eat too, because I feel like it just loosens me up.
Yeah.
Otherwise I'm like too stiff.
So does it feel natural to you now to eat in front of the camera?
Yeah, for sure.
Was it always that way, or was it kind of like, what was it like at the beginning? Like when you first started, when you first like, you know what, I'm gonna try this mukbang thing. I'm gonna film myself slopping down like a spaghetti sauce.
Incredibly awkward. Awkward. I mean, and at first I was just doing them at home and it was awkward. I'm like, I'm talking to a video camera, first of all, just like getting used to just talking to a camera by yourself and not feeling crazy.
Right.
And then just to give you like what set the scene here, I lived at a townhouse in Minnesota, which is where I started mukbang. And the townhomes, there were like two rows that kind of like the garages faced each other. So like my kitchen window, which is where I shot everything, backed up to somebody else's kitchen window. And so I was shooting, and then I would pull up this table, which was probably like at this height. I'm sitting on the ground right now.
Yeah.
And like a tiny ass little stool. So I'd sit there with my camera, my big ass camera, and they could see, like I had the blinds wide open, obviously, for all the natural light I could get. And I have no idea what my neighbors were thinking the whole time. I'm like, this isn't just me being awkward eating in front of the camera. This is like me exposing myself to my entire neighborhood right now.
I wonder what they were thinking. Right? Like what is up with this?
I always wondered. And some of my neighbors I never even spoke to. Like I saw them look at me several times. So I'm like, they know I'm here. They know what weirdness is going on, but they never spoke to me.
I imagine them like voyeurs watching you get out of your car with your groceries, like looking out the window, like, what has she got? What is she?
I know, right? They're like wearing their
doing?
sunglasses so I can't see like, exactly where they're looking. But it got even weirder when I left the house because I started doing these videos out. Like I'd go for YouTube, I'd go out to restaurants and start trying the food there. Start trying to like rectify that with yourself. You've got like all of these different people in the restaurant looking at you, the waiter's confused. Like, I would have to just like put my camera down and be like, hi, I'm going to be filming and you can just come over whenever you want. Don't be afraid, blah, blah, blah. I had to like, just end up having this spiel with people. Otherwise, they're like, they would never come over to me.
Freaked out.
Yeah.
Were people receptive to that kind of thing, or were there ever any situations where people did not want you to film or gave you a hard time about it?
Actually, yes, shockingly, at Matt's bar in Minneapolis, the originator of the Juicy Lucy.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, so and this wasn't even me filming myself eating. I came with a nice camera and I wanted to take a picture of their Juicy Lucy. This is like right before I started mukbang, and they were like, we don't allow that in here. I'm like, but why? Your food's so good. What are you afraid of? The internet's here. It's not going anywhere. People are going to say something about you, whether they have a picture of it or not, but you have to respect this private property at the end of the day.
Right.
I think in general, like, people like to have a bit of warning, and your level of calmness and accommodation might get matched, in return. If you're just like, if you're like, this is your house, is it okay? This is what I'd like to do. And then people, I think, are much more receptive.
Cool. Now you're comfortable, right? Eating in front of the camera. How many followers do you have? How big is your following?
Across platforms, it's like 2.1 or 2.2 million.
That is huge, dude. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any like sense of like, what's your demographic? Who are the people? Is it Americans? Are you finding people overseas
are into the platform? Yeah, I'm definitely a global person. Instagram especially. I think it's because I started mukbang so early and Americans weren't like kind of in like that zone yet of wanting to watch that stuff, that I have a lot of people from the other side of the world watching me. TikTok, mostly people from the US or just like English speaking countries. YouTube sort of in the middle, but it's mostly women, which I think a lot of people are surprised by. They think
that is interesting.
You're a cute girl, you're eating on camera. It seems like something like a guy would want to watch, but no, it's like 80% women. And they're typically younger, but mostly like 20s, 30s.
Oh, that's great. You got a young clientele who'll be with you for a long time.
Yeah, they'll grow with me. They'll age with me.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Not only you guys keep eating those huge bowls of pasta, though, man, you're going to age the wrong way.
Well, so
we got to talk about that. We got to talk about that because you're pretty fit. You work out a lot. You're in good shape.
Yeah.
How do you maintain? Like, how often are you filming? How often are you doing these things?
Well, first of all, when I started, I was definitely like not being very healthy about it. I felt a lot of pressure to eat as much as I could. Or maybe I was trying to prove something to myself, because I literally throughout my childhood was always known as the big eater. Like my friends' parents wouldn't let me come over for dinner. They didn't make enough for 8 people. They made enough for 4 people. Yep. So I was always
like, whoa, this isn't enough. Like I eat for 4.
I had a reputation to keep,
Yeah.
but I'm like, this doesn't feel good when I was eating. Even though I loved the food that I was eating, I was just like, this is too much. So I had to scale it back and say, all right, this is your show. You do whatever the fuck you want. You're going to eat until you feel good, and then you're going to stop. And in addition to that, like, I started becoming very in tune with like nutrition and what my body needs. I'm a 5'3", 120 something pound female that is burning such and such amount of calories a day with a workout, that's how many calories I should be consuming. I shouldn't be going over and above that. So I started learning a lot about what was in my food, a lot about macros and micronutrients, and like just trying to be aware of what I was putting into my body to match like what it needed. And so after starting to do that, it became much more enjoyable. I was able to very much like maintain filming, those big videos like a couple times a week, even though, again, like I'm not going well above what I should normally be eating in a day. I'll just typically, depending on what the video is, supplement with whatever I might need. So if it's like a lower protein, lower fiber dish that I have, then I would supplement with something that was like low calorie, high protein, high fiber. I've got like these protein bars that have like 15 grams of fiber, 20 grams of protein, 200 calories. Those are like beautiful. Blackberries, really high in fiber. Those are like one of my go-tos also. But now a lot of my content is shifted towards being like much more nutritionally balanced. Not to say that they're low fat, because they're not. I'm a huge proponent of using butter and real cheese and cream. And like, I love those foods, and I believe that they can coexist with other foods that are, have other kinds of nutrition. And I'm aware that, cheese also has nutrition, and people just like label these foods as bad. I don't think they're bad. I just think we need to look at them more objectively and know what they have and what we need, and like take that into consideration when you plan out like what you're eating in a day.
Yeah. I think that's a great message, and I think it's great that you're doing that, right? Like, because those foods are like, they're so enjoyable. Like there's a reason that butter and cheese and like these amazing carbs, like there's a reason that those things like speak to your soul.
Exactly.
You shouldn't starve your soul.
Exactly.
Right?
And your soul always wins. People going on these diets, they restrict themselves from like all of these foods that they love, and then they binge because they miss it so much. And I find that doing what I'm doing, like I never restrict. If I want to have chocolate, I have chocolate. If I want to have cheese, I have cheese. I'm just smart about amounts. And then I never feel like I have to binge on anything, my soul is always satisfied.
That's awesome. More of us need to be that way for sure.
I think
so how many times a week do you film an episode?
It depends.
Or how frequently, I guess.
Yeah. So these past couple of weeks have kind of been crazy because I came out with some new macaroni and cheese like merch. So I filmed like 4 mac and cheese videos in 2 weeks.
I saw that. I want some mac and cheese merch, by the way.
Well, it's on sale till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow? I got to jump on there? All right. Yeah. I'll get on that.
It's on my link in bio. I'm really bad at promoting myself.
We'll put a link in the show notes to get people over there. Oh, okay. But it won't be on sale.
Oh yeah, it probably won't be on sale after you. No. That's all right. We'll come out with a new merch later this year.
So do you have a store? Do you have a store on your website?
I partner with a company called Flavor Gallery. They're great. They handle all of like the distribution, sales. They have the website. So yeah, I don't deal with any of that myself. I have for my fitness program, because I started a fitness program in 2020. I have a little t-shirt shop for that on Shopify.
Cool.
But it's like, I don't even think it's active right now. I did it like a year ago, and then it was like,
So fitness is a big thing for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people like you ask me like how I'm able to like eat and stay in shape, and I felt like it's not like that simple of an answer. So I put together a bunch of resources, like a macro calculator, and like I have all of these lists of foods high in like different macronutrients and micronutrients, and like how many calories they have, and like other nutritional resources. And then I also have workouts on there too. I figured, I'm active and I have like a strategy for eating. So I just sort of put it all into one place, and started, a fitness program.
Is that stuff all available on your website, or do you have, how do you offer that to followers or for people?
Yeah, so I have like one of those link trees in my bio. So if you go to that, it's not there right now because of the t-shirt thing, and there's just too many links. It's like, gotta take it off.
You're on
put it
link
back on after the
overload.
shirts are off sale. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's usually at my link in bio. It's got its own Instagram page, but it was just too much. I was too overwhelmed trying to create content for that page and the Hunger Diaries and everything else. So, but yeah, it is active. It is active. It's like boutique, the fancy way of saying small. We've got like 100 or so members. I do the workouts live every morning, which has been like the best thing for me because I always am there.
Keeps you on task, right?
Like
Feel
my
like
accountability buddy.
Well, I think that's the hardest thing about working out. And my fiance and I, we've been kind of on these workout routines, trying to get, we're getting married in October, so we're trying to get all of our like fitness in, get all looking sharp. And accountability is like the hardest part. It's like somebody to be like, hey, are you going today? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
And that accountability to get into the gym and do the work. That's good.
Yeah. Ever since I started doing this, and I do them literally right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is my yoga mat.
Yeah, that's your workout spot.
That's my workout spot, and my bed's right there. So I literally just roll out of bed and workouts, and they're like 20 to 30 minutes long, and I feel so happy afterwards that I've just gotten it over with at the beginning of the day. And I don't drink coffee. It gives me tons of energy. So I love it.
Nice. What do you just do like mostly like is it like a yoga workout? Do you use weights? What's your go-to kind of?
So I
change it up.
I used to do CrossFit for I don't know, like 5-6 years, and I loved it. It was really intense though. I really hated having to drive to and from. So I figured out how to do like CrossFit style work, though I can't. They'll sue me if I say it's CrossFit workouts. But we do like
not CrossFit.
Right, not CrossFit workouts.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like the same style. Like, I don't know if you've ever done CrossFit, but like 4-time workouts, EMOMs, AMRAPs, Tabata.
Sounds hardcore. That sounds hardcore. I'm like a dumbbell like crunch guy.
I've got 12s, I've got 8s, I've got some like ankle weights and wrist weights and some resistance bands. This is my like box for box jumps and step ups, and
Gotcha.
it's not super intense. There's no like barbells involved, and there's no pull-ups or gymnastics like there is in like regular CrossFit. So it's definitely a much more like approachable version, and it's still hard. It's it's hard as you want to make it.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
So I want to get back to the filming of the content.
Yeah.
Because I've done a little bit of that, not for any sort of, just like for my social media and stuff like that. And we'll play around with like cooking videos and cool content. How long does it take for you to put together one of your episodes? They're really well done. They're like well edited, and the lighting's good, sounds good. Like you have a good production quality to it. So like yeah, you're welcome. How do you like how does it go from the idea in your head? How long does that take to put it together and then have it released on your?
The ideas in my head are probably the worst part, honestly. I've got a list like so long of all of these ideas. Deciding on what to do is hard for me. Trying to figure out, is this fit with my brand? Is this something that everybody else would like? Is this something that I really want to eat / cook? Once I figured out the concept, I obviously have to go shop for the food, and it depends on the recipe, but it takes me anywhere from like 3 to 5 or 6 hours to shoot. I've got 2 different cameras. I've got one that's straight ahead and another angled down that, again, I am the camera person for. So I have to like go and start each one. So the recording, I have an editor. So I, have to like be my own little director. So it makes the editing process easier for her. She just does my YouTube videos, but it's like I have to think about like what are the sweet spots of each part of this recipe process. In photography, they call it like the hero. If you're taking a photo, and maybe it's a burger with like the cheese like dripping down the side, like the hero is that cheese like dripping down the side, like highlight that, you know. So it's about trying to think about like what's the best thing to highlight at each stage, and then also what angle is the best way to highlight that, which can be tricky with my current like studio setup. I don't necessarily have every angle available to me. So
Right.
it's challenging, but it's rewarding at the end of it to have put something great together. And it usually takes like between going back and forth with my editor, it's like a couple days or so to have them like edited. And then I edit down my teasers for Instagram. So that's like another hour to an hour and a half. And then posting. So, I mean, it's kind of a lengthy process. It looks, everything.
So, I mean, it would take you like a full work week to get something together. Is that fair to say? Some
2 full YouTube videos would occupy a lot of my week for sure. But then I have to think about short form content. That's like Instagram Reels and TikTok and now YouTube Shorts, and now Pinterest started. Now Facebook is there, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, how many platforms can we get to here, really?
So what are your thoughts on that? Are you starting to feel the crunch? Are you like, okay, where is my threshold? And
listen, I think everybody,
because there are so many
benefits. Nobody really benefits from spreading themselves too thin. So unless you're putting the same piece of content everywhere, like some creators really are. I mean, they just have short form content and they're putting it everywhere, and that's great. You know, if I did that, I'd be able to take 1 or 2 days to shoot, a day to edit, and have like the rest of the week off, essentially, or just to like really like grind it and have a video come out like every single day. It's just not a way that I can live. So yeah, I've got to think about both forms of content, and hopefully being able to take the long form and use it for short form, but I got to edit in a different way. It's a lot to, it's a lot.
Yeah. At what point did this become your career? Like at what point did you say, hey, you know what? It's lucrative enough for me to like not have a second job or not have to work at night or whatever, and just focus on your content?
So when we moved to Minnesota, I decided I was not going to take a service industry job because I wanted to be able to just create content. So we had another room in our house, or in our townhouse, and I Airbnb'd it for a while until we had a terrible experience, and I will never do that again. But it helped until I was able, I think it was like a year, maybe 2 after we moved. Yeah, it was probably like 2 years after we moved to Minnesota that I'm like, okay, I can support myself now. It's not hugely comfortable, but I can support myself off of it. And now it's continued to grow into definitely 6-figure situation.
Fantastic.
I even made more money than Shane last year. So.
All right, had that. Step up his game a little bit. That's awesome, man. You're like a huge star now.
I mean, I don't know about that. But...
Speaking of stars, well, you're getting there. You've got over 2 million followers.
Yeah,
I would say that's pretty good. In my book, you're a star.
It's not bad. Thank you. I think a lot of that came from some viral TikTok trends. And now TikTok's a funny space. I went from having like a lot of views all the time to having like virtually none, which even on Instagram is something that I'm not used to. Sometimes you take a long break, you post, and the algorithm has to kind of like get used to you again. Oh, you're here.
Oh yeah, welcome back.
But you still have your follower base, and it still ends up showing it to like a decent amount of people. TikTok is just not. It's like they don't. At least right now, I think the algorithm is very much about momentum, and when you have that momentum, it's great. And as long as you keep it going, you'll keep that momentum and maybe grow it. But if something breaks in that momentum, and I've had a few occasions where I definitely like stopped, and it just
tanked your
Yeah.
viewership or whatever.
Yeah.
How much do you spend any like kind of time worried about thinking about algorithms? Do you let that like creep into your thought process, or do you just try to kind of keep on a rhythm, or what's like
It's hard
how
not
much weight do you
to.
put in it? Yeah.
You know, it's your job, and even though my pay isn't necessarily associated with views, like I mean, I do make a little bit of money from YouTube ad revenue. Um, but all of my money comes from brand deals, you
Hmm.
know. So, I mean, that does in a sense matter. I mean, your engagement matters for how much you're getting paid in those brand deals. Your following matters for how much you're getting paid. So, I think growth is the idea so that you continue to get paid more and more and, grow your engagement and your following to make more and more money.
Yep.
So, it's hard to not completely.
Yeah. So it's always kind of in the back of your mind, like how much, how juiced into the algorithm am I at any given
Right. I mean, again, momentum has always been the name of the game for me. Something will happen. It wouldn't matter what the fuck I posted. It would do
Yeah.
well because I had that momentum. And then other times it's like you post the most amazing thing ever that people would love, but it's just that you're not on that trajectory, you know.
Is there any strategy that you have or that you've identified that you can kind of sync back into the algorithm if you're on a hiatus, or is it just repetition? Like, is there any like buzzword key like material that will get you back into the?
I think that for me, something that I keep having to remind myself of this is quality over quantity.
Mhm.
Be intentional with the things that have done well for you in the past. Like look at what works and do more of that type thing,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And you can build up your momentum doing that. But it is so easy to get caught in that whole like wheel of I need to produce more content. I need to have a video every day. I haven't posted in 3 days. I just need to put something out. And then that's when the content can suffer because you're not necessarily putting out your best
Yeah.
work. You're not
It's
putting
not
the
quality
volume and
stuff.
energy, and it's not where it should be. But you're just putting it out anyways because you need to put something out. And I think that's the struggle that I'm sure a lot of people go through, but it's certainly something that I go through.
Sure. And and I'm sure, I feel like that kind of parallels a lot of all the other creative um, outlets out there, right? Like, when you're creative, it's you want people to consume your stuff, right? Whether it's food or it's art or it's music or whatever, and it's that tricky balancing act.
Right. And as an artist, I consider myself a creative, you you feel like you have to be better. Like your next thing has to be better than the last. It's like I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty hard on myself. I think a lot of other like artists, whatever, field that they're in, are like that too. It has to be better. It has to be, I don't know.
Is there
Trying
ever a
to
is
be more zen.
is there going to be a point? I was just going to ask you, is there going to be a point where you are comfortable with that and like not trying to push and you're just like, you know what? I've made it. This is where I'm at. This is what it's about.
Yeah, I think that happiness is contentness and the feeling of being grateful for everything you have and how far you've come and acknowledging that as often as possible because I have the tendency to just forget, you know, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years ago, my goal was 100,000 followers or to make $100,000. You put these arbitrary goals in your
Right.
head, but
Yep.
once you hit them, you're like, why am I not happy? Like, why is this not, you know, what's next? Oh, now it's 500,000,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
not, so it's like, I feel like it's okay to want to make more money. It's okay to want to have more followers, but I think the name of the game is to just decide to be happy and grateful no matter what stage you're at. And then you'll be happy no matter where you are.
I like it. I'm all about the path, being the reward, not the finish line, because
Yeah.
I was that way too. I think I was always, as a young cook and as a young chef, I was always very goal oriented. I want my own restaurant. I want this. I want that, this award, whatever. And as you start to accumulate those rewards or getting to those goalposts, you realize that not much has changed, you know?
Right.
And so it's a good note. And I think, it's about doing the thing that you love or the things that make you happy or, fulfill you along the way is where the happiness lies, I think.
Exactly. And I think for me, like, I do enjoy the journey in that if I take a look at where I was 5 years ago again, I've learned so much. I love that the education journey has been there for me. I feel like I've grown as a person. I've dealt with my fair share of difficult situations and become stronger. There's a lot of things that I've been grateful for with the process. I think stress is something, again, that I still try to manage throughout, and that I know would make the process, the creating process, so much easier for me, and so much more fun. So I think that's just something that I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be a hire of some kind.
Right. Yeah. So I want to ask you about the piece of content or the video or the thing that you're most proud of. Like, what has there been a piece of content that you've put out that you were like, damn, dude, you fucking nailed it. Like, that's what it's all about. Or are you the kind of person that at the end you're like, man, I could have done that better? Like, oh.
Of course. I mean, there's always things that I'm like, well, yeah, that could have been tweaked a little bit here or there. I mean, there's several short form like pasta videos that I've like loved how they've turned out. It's really hard to say. I mean, some recipes just crush it, and I'm like, wow, that was a really great idea. I'm really happy with that idea. Like, one of my most popular YouTube videos is a roasted fall vegetable Alfredo. It's just like kind of like a buzzword.
Yeah.
Alfredo. But it was so delicious, and I feel like it really stood for me in that, like, I'm taking something indulgent. I'm not using freaking a cream substitute. I'm using cream, and I'm adding all of these roasted vegetables into it and boosting the flavor, boosting the nutrition, and everybody fucking loved it. I'm like, this is amazing, and still, like, I don't know why it had a bump like a month ago. Roasted fall vegetable Alfredo, maybe on the other side of the world because it's
fall over there. Yeah, it's fall. It's fall in the southern hemisphere right now.
Right, exactly. But yeah,
in Australia, they're crushing those root vegetables. Yeah, there's short form videos too that I've loved, and honestly, like when when we were in Minnesota, my kitchen setup, it was small. I'm like, man, I can't wait to have a better setup. This little rinky dink like table, like one with the fold out legs that I was using, like it just stayed in our kitchen. Like I didn't take it out. It just stayed in our kitchen. Like, this is not a situation I want to be with forever. But the lighting was just incredible. And I loved being able to film there. And now I have to use artificial lights most of the time being here, which is not something that I will have to do. I'm like designing my kitchen in Colorado specifically for what I do. So I'm really looking forward to the content that I'm going to get to film there. But yeah, I've always loved photography. So anything that just like really looks beautiful from that photography, videography standpoint are the things that like make me the happiest. Oh, that's awesome. Do you end up do you break down and set up your gear like every time you're doing content, or do you just is your kitchen just like rigged with
well, so we're staying with my parents while we're in Florida, and so absolutely not. And I I couldn't leave the cameras and everything. Like, I mean, in Minnesota, I had them pushed to the corner of the kitchen next to the table that I used. Here, everything is in another room. I mean, I don't need a table. I just do everything at the countertop, which is amazing. But yeah, I've got to take out. I have two separate lights. I have a ring light and then a secondary light. I have both cameras. I have to move things from the back counter so it's not so cluttered. What else? I mean, in addition to getting like my mise en place done and getting all of that set up. And yeah, so there's a lot of setup and a lot of cleanup.
So I wanted to ask you about that. What kind of cook are you in the kitchen? Are you the clean, meticulous cook, or are you like the bomb went off, there's herbs all over the floor kind of cook?
Definitely not the bomb went off. I mean, sometimes I let it get to be a little bit too much, but the more messy it gets, the more stressed out I get. So I'm typically one of those like clean after every stage, or at least like get myself organized and put things in the sink and get them like soaking or whatever. But I hate having a dirty work space.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel you.
Mother's daughter.
I'm like such an oxymoron. Like I am so meticulous about my mise en place and stuff, but I'm also like when I'm cooking at home, like it's completely different than when I cook in the restaurants, right? In the restaurants, I'm very meticulous, everything's spotless, but at home, I'm like on a deadline, right? I'm like, oh, we have to have dinner in like 30 minutes, and it's just like I destroy the kitchen. Like poor Corey comes in and she's just like, I just see the fear and she's like, oh my God, what is happening in here? Am I responsible for this? Do I have to clean this? The answer is no.
I'm surprised that do you cook a lot when you're at home? Because I feel like for me with my filming, like I don't even want to cook half the time when I'm not working because I've just had to do so much cooking.
Right. I was going to ask you about that. So who cooks dinner for you guys? Like, what's your story?
I mean, she's always been the one to cook dinner and she still loves it. So she cooks dinner a lot of the time. But if I'm filming, I typically film like starting in the middle of the afternoon so that like early evening, the food is done and like we can like heat it back up a little bit and like have it with dinner or like be part of dinner or whatever.
So Shane is a little bit of the beneficiary of this.
Yes.
This job.
It was our neighbors and Shane.
Okay.
And now it's my parents and Shane.
Okay, cool. And then when it's an off day, mom's doing the cooking.
Typically, or we'll have leftovers. We love leftovers.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I don't, I don't enjoy cooking at home. I do it out of like survival. It's for survival.
Pure necessity.
Yeah, because most of my tools are usually at the restaurant. Like I'm particular about my knives and all that kind of stuff. And so like my tools are always scattered all over the place. They're in different cities half the time. My peeler's in Nashville and my steel is in Charleston, and I'm like just a mess.
Right.
So often for me, cooking at home is not like the Zen dojo kind of cooking that I like to do in the restaurant.
Right. And I would love to just like block that into my time, like extra time to just cook slowly,
Right.
And just enjoy the process.
Do you think you could do that though? Like, can you do that? Because you have an editor. I mean, you can let it take some time, right?
For me,
or is that just not something that's built into your programming?
When we were in Minnesota, I felt better about it because, Shane doesn't really need to use the kitchen. It was our house, but here I find myself like, my dad stays in his office. My mom goes into her bedroom,
People are moving around your
living room, kitchen area is like typically off limits because I don't like people like banging around and making noise while I film. So I like to try to get it done, as quickly as I can. Be like, hey, Lindsay, how much time is left? I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Like Top Chef, that's some Top Chef shit right there. Cooking to the clock.
Yeah. So it's not when we move and we have our own house, I think it'll get easier until we have kids. And then I'm sure I'm just going to implode.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that in the cards? When's that happening?
We've been trying for a while. We had been trying for like 6 months or so. And then I found out that I had a giant tumor in my uterus. It's called a fibroid. It wasn't cancerous, but it was like this big. And so they had to remove that. Nothing
Like a pasta baby there or something?
happened there. I know. Well, I thought, I don't know what I thought. I didn't really see anything. I'm like, how was that inside of me? And then it took my uterus like 6 months to heal from that, before you're able to like start trying to conceive again.
Gotcha.
And then my brother passed, and so that was, not the sexiest time. And so that it's been probably another 9 months that we've been trying. We've had a lot of testing done. There's nothing wrong with us. But it's interesting. Like, if you look online and they're like, well, the longer you try, the greater your chances are of getting pregnant. It's just like, however that works mathematically. But if you talk to somebody at a fertility clinic, they say the exact opposite. They're like, oh, the longer you try, the less of a chance you have.
Right. You just got to let it happen or whatever.
Well, that's what they say online, but you go to fertility clinic, they're like, you cannot just let it happen. Every month that goes by, your chances are going down. You need to spend $25,000 on us to get you pregnant.
Of course you do. Oh, it'll happen.
Well, I'm 36 now and, technically geriatric. And
no way. For real?
For real. For a woman for me getting pregnant, would be considered a geriatric pregnancy at 36. Apparently 38 is really when things start to go downhill as far as like your chances are concerned, like your egg reserve and all of that. I'm sure this is really interesting for you.
Fascinating. I am fascinated.
So anyways, I'm hoping that we can get this ball rolling one way or another in the next couple years.
Yeah. So what's the move? What's the move to Colorado like? So you mentioned that a couple times. We spoke briefly before we started. You've got some exciting things going on.
Yeah. So we have been designing a home. We're doing a custom home for the past 6 months. And that has just been a process. And now we've just finished designing, and we're now going to the builder and the engineer who's got to finish the plans, and we've got the architect, and now there's issues that we're trying to sort out. Once that happens, we've got to get approvals from the town and the HOA, and then we can break ground starting hopefully in July or August.
Nice. Well, that's coming up. That's not too long away.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think your build out time is going to be? And more importantly, what is this kitchen setup going to be?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. Natural light is the biggest for me. They said it take about 9 months to finish. I think everything in construction is always delayed. So I'm thinking
14
right.
months.
Well, with the construction loan, they want you to have it done in a year. So from the time they give you the loan, you have to be in within a year unless there's some crazy circumstance. So 9 to 12 months is how long it will take. And our kitchen, so we have if this is our great room here, we've got our living room over here and the kitchen over here. And then the back of the house is hopefully going to be all glass. Mm-hmm. There'll be sliders at the living room. Our dining room is going to jut out from the kitchen and the living room and be a lot of glass. So it'll just be we've got nothing behind us. It's hills and mountains.
And you're closer to the sun.
We are closer to the sun.
Where in Colorado?
It's going to be between Denver and Boulder in a town called Superior.
You know that we're open Church and Union Denver later this year.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, awesome.
Right. It's literally 3 blocks up from Union Station.
I love it.
Yeah.
I know Tavernetta is
fantastic.
There, which I love.
Yeah, that's one of our favorite. That's our favorite spot to go when we're there as a group. We've gone and done a bunch of recon
there.
Safta.
Have you been to Safta?
I have not been there yet, but I'll hit it.
But it's Alan Shia.
Okay.
Alan Shia, he owns Saba in New Orleans. It's Israeli.
Mm-hmm.
Just so good.
Awesome.
Fresh pita, what do they call it? Salatine, the dips, the baba ganoush and the hummus, and he does like these amazing hummuses and labna, and oh my gosh, it's like some of my favorite food ever.
I'll definitely hit that up.
Yes, but the kitchen, we're gonna have a 10-foot island with nothing on it. We're doing the sink at the window, which is going to have a pass through to like a little outdoor like kitchen area, which I don't know if we're going to do right away or not, but that'll have like a nice big window, relatively high ceilings. And then on the other side of the house where the range is, we're going to actually have windows on either side of the range and then some cabinets. So it's going to be a lot of light let into the kitchen. Perfect for my filming situation. I hope there are some things I'm trying to work out. And then we've got this amazing like butler's pantry / second kitchen that's like comes off our kitchen and connects to our mud room. And it's going to have like tons of storage. So I'm really excited.
Awesome, man. That's so exciting. It sounds like a lot of fun.
I hope we can afford it.
I can fully relate to that, what you're talking about right now. Yeah. Have you picked out all your appliances yet? You know what your brands are going to be? What kinds of, you doing gas? You doing electric? What is your gas?
100%. Gas cooktop. I would love to have a Thermador. I think kitchen.
If anybody from Thermador is listening, you guys need we need a sponsorship deal for Thermador.
Sponsor me.
Yeah.
KitchenAid. I liked their oven and I think a fridge. I think we're wanting to go with, was it Bosch dishwasher? I think that's like a pretty highly rated dishwasher.
Bosch is good.
Yeah. I think that's like the extent of what I know so far. I feel very ahead of the game. I've done so much research on what I want already.
I mean, if your plans are not approved and you already kind of know what your equipment's going to look like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, I think we've been going for about an hour. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you about that you want to talk about a little bit?
Not really. There was one thing that I just wanted to acknowledge and as just feeling grateful for it. And it's when I worked at your restaurant, your business partner, Patrick, he pulled me aside one day. He's like, Lindsay, I got to talk to you. I'm like, okay, what's up? What's going on? He sat down. He's like, what are we doing here with this blog thing? What's going on? What's your end game? He really cared. And he's like, what are you doing? Have a strategy, have a goal. What is your idea of success? Like he really just like kind of planted this seed of like going for it, And so I just feel, we all get put into different places at different times for a reason. And I just felt grateful for having the opportunity to work at your restaurant and to meet you and get to know you and Patrick and Alejandro and everybody. Well, not everybody.
Yeah. Pat and Alejandro and me.
It was just a great experience, and I'm just really grateful. So,
well, I'm really excited for our paths to cross again. If we are opening in Miami. I think I told you that. Yeah, we're working on the plans for Miami right now, so we'll be making a lot of trips down there. If we do cross paths, I'm gonna hit you up and try to get a coffee or something. And if not in Florida, definitely in Denver for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. That's a Church and Union you're doing in Miami?
Yeah, we're doing a Church and Union in Miami and then also in Denver. Awesome. So, and those are both under the Denver is in the kind of approval stage. All of our plans have been submitted and all that good stuff. And we're just waiting to get started. And we're in the design phase in Miami. So we're moving fast. We'll be spending a lot of time down there and hopefully we'll definitely cross paths.
Yeah. When's your projected like opening for them?
Oh, come on, Lindsay. I'm not playing this game.
Restaurant. You guys don't have like a goal month or like in a year or two or?
So our current project, Ophelia, is in Nashville that we're hopefully opening next week. We'll see. Was supposed to open in like March.
Okay.
So I'm not even going to speculate on dates. Like that's not a thing. So we'll
That's
see.
fair.
But yeah, but we're moving as quickly as we can, and we're pushing the design stuff, and it's just there's so many moving parts that it's just it takes time to get everything in line.
Cool. Well, I'm excited either way. You just let me know.
Awesome. Last question for you.
Yes.
For any other young people wanting to get into a food blog or vlog situation, what would you recommend, or what would you tell them?
I would say that it's going to be difficult. It's difficult to start, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't start. I think taking action and writing actionable, manageable lists of the steps that you need to get to whatever your goal is super, super important. And that a unique perspective is incredibly important, and more important than it has been throughout the whole like existence of social media, to just bring out your authenticity and what makes you special and your personality, and just sort of package that all together and just put in the work, be consistent, and just do your best. It's not for everybody, but I don't think that people should be discouraged because the space is saturated or whatever. There's always room for more people. So why not?
Awesome. Lindsay, thank you so much. Everybody check out The Hunger Diaries, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Jamie. Thank you for having me on.
All right, later.